Welcome to another episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering. Today we have the quintessential Muscles and Magic the Gathering deck. This is my Selvala Heart of the Wilds Brostorm deck. So if you like big, stompy, powerful, muscle-bound, crushing creatures, you have come to the right place. And for this occasion, I am hopped up on pre-workout. I am getting ready to go lift all the weights after this. We are getting in the perfect Brostorm frame of mind. But with all that said, this deck is a Brostorm deck. It's built, again, around big, monstrous creatures. There's going to be a lot of card draw, and there's going to be a lot of tutoring and infinite style combos. So if you like all those things, stay tuned. You've come to the right place. Now, the first thing we're going to do, like every episode, by the way, I am Bobby Maximus. I put the muscles in Muscles and Magic the Gathering. But like every video, we are going to talk about the commander first because I build my commander decks around the commander. Obviously, although that's not so obvious to a lot of people. Now, Selvala Heart of the Wilds is going to be a mono green deck. And what does Selvala do? Let's take a look here. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. If you tap a green mana, you're going to add X mana in any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So let's look at that again. The first ability, whenever you have a massive creature enter the battlefield, you're going to get to draw a card. And then the second ability, you're going to be able to use that creature to generate a ton of mana and cheat out all kinds of other creatures and run people over. So that's basically how Selvala is going to work. And the reason it's called Brostorm is because we are going to be filled with all kinds of bro-type creatures that are just absolute monsters, all right? So that is Selvala. We've got two Planeswalkers in this deck. And the first one here is a left-handed magic card, Garruk, the Caller of Beasts. Now, the first ability, the +1 ability, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This deck is high on creatures. I'm looking over at my side computer right now. This deck is one of my biggest creature decks, if you will. There are 40 creatures in this deck, so that's going to really come in handy. The second ability, the -3 ability, you may put a green creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, so a great way to cheat out creatures. And then the final ability, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a creature card and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Again, this card goes really, really good in this deck. Our second Planeswalker is Garruk, Primeval Hunter. +1 ability, create a 3/3 green beast creature token. The -3 ability, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. And there are massive, massive creatures in this Brostorm deck. And then the final ability, create a 6/6 green worm creature token for each land you control. So again, the goal of this deck is to just honestly just run people over. Again, the quintessential Muscles and Magic the Gathering deck. Those are our Planeswalkers. Now, these are things I don't use a lot. This one had to go in this deck. And it's one of those Battle Siege type cards, all right? This was from March of the Machine, the Invasion of Ikoria. As a siege enters, choose an opponent to protect it. You and others can attack it. When it's defeated, exile it, and you cast it transformed. When Invasion of Ikoria enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less, then put it onto the battlefield. So this acts as a tutor. There's a lot of tutors in this deck because we want to go after all those big stompy creatures. If you search your library this way, shuffle. And let's look at what this transforms into. Super powerful creature, a dinosaur, Zilortha, Apex of Ikoria. It's got reach, and for each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So huge 8/8 dinosaur, And again, this acts as a tutor. And if this deck is going to work right, you do need a lot of tutors. So get prepared for that. Let's talk about the various creatures in this deck. We have the Oracle of Moldiah. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, play with the top card of your library revealed, and you may play land cards from the top of your library. So these are a great land ramp card because you're going to get more lands onto the battlefield. We have one of these two-sided cards, Disciple of Freelis. When Disciple of Freelis enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. Card draw is heavily featured in this deck. Card draw is actually a component of a lot of Commander decks that I do. Card draw is a great way to win a game of Commander. In fact, it's one of the most important components of building a competitive Commander deck. And this is one of those cards. There are 35 lands in this deck because it's a monocolored deck. I can ride with a few lands. But the technical term for this card is an MDFC, and this also doubles as a land here in addition to this creature. So it's got a creature or a land, the Disciple of Freelis. We have the Finned Horn Elves, and a classic printing of this from Ice Age. Add a mana to your mana pool, play this ability as an interrupt. I love mana ramp type cards. Now, I did talk about card draw being a huge component of a competitive Commander deck. Two other areas where we're really going to focus on. We want to focus on tutors. We want to focus on mana ramp. And this card is filled with both of those. So this deck is filled with both of those. This is actually one of my most competitive decks. So I just want to put that out there. The greatest mana ramp card of all time. We have the Birds of Paradise. We have another elf. When Reclamation Sage enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Now, you don't have enough removal in your Commander deck. In fact, a lot of my Commander decks need more removal too, and especially when it comes to artifacts and enchantments. People have creature removal, but you need more artifact and enchantment removal. I love the Reclamation Sage. One thing I need to talk about too, I didn't mention this. This is another one of my elf decks. I've actually got 3 elf decks. Now, I said this was a Brostorm deck. It's big, stompy creatures, and that's 100% true. But there is a massive elf undertone in this. So you could also look at this deck as kind of like an elf tribal kinfolk deck, if you will. Speaking of elves, we have another elf, and it is a tutor because tutors are so important in this deck. We have the Fauna Shaman. Discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And why are tutors so important in this deck? Because you want to be able to trigger these infinite mana combos that you can do with Selvala. So I want to go after a couple of very specific creatures, and I will point those out as they come up. Marwyn the Nurturer. Now, Commander in one of my other elf decks. I guess I have 3 elf decks, if you will, but I do have 57 Commander decks, and there's a lot of elves I want to feature. So here we are. Anyway, Marwyn the Nurturer. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Marwyn the Nurturer, and then you tap it, add an amount of mana equal to Marwyn's power. You can go infinite with this card, especially with the Staff of Domination in this deck, so this is an important piece. Banned card alert, Rofellos Llanowar Emissary. Add 1 green mana to your mana pool for each forest you control. Now, I'm going to put this out there. If you watch me, you know I play with banned cards. I don't believe in the ban list. The ban list has no place at my gaming table. All cards are welcome. We don't discriminate. I actually think the ban list is oppressive, and I think it's unfair, and I think it's arbitrary. You can't tell me that Rofellos is banned, but a Gaia's Cradle is legal. You can't tell me that a Mana Crypt is banned, but a Soul Ring is legal. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And there's so many cards in Magic that are extremely powerful. Rhystic Study, Smothering Tithe, Shieldred, Wheel of Fortune. Like, listen, I'm going to play with my banned cards. Leave me alone about it, but you should play with banned cards too. That's all I'm trying to say. So hear me out on that. But we have a Rofellos Llanowar Emissary. Love this card. And I'm looking for the day when we make a bracket 6. This is my pitch to Wizards. Make a bracket 6 where all cards are allowed and people can just play. I'm sick of people crying about, oh, you can't play that card. It's too salty. Like, it's such a slippery slope and it never ends. So let's just play all cards and have fun. Another elf, Huron Ranger. Return a forest you control to its owner's hand. Untap target creature. Use this ability only once each turn. Now, we haven't talked about this untap ability, but it's super important. And there's a bunch of untappers in this deck. Why? So you can continually tap Selvala to create infinite mana. So we want to be able to untap, 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 untap. We have the Arbor Elf. Untap target forest. All right, so another untap ability card. And it's an elf, so it fits into the elf theme. Oh, big stompy creature, because this is Brostorm, Impervious Great Worm. Convoke. Your creatures can help cast a spell. Each creature you tap while casting this spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color, and it has indestructible. Speaking of big stompy creatures, Ghalta, the Primeval Hunger. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. It has trample. Goreclaw, the Terror of Calcisma. Creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast. So not mana rev, but reducing the casting cost of things. I love those cards. Whenever Goreclaw attacks, each creature you control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. That's a game ender in this deck. Zopandrel, Hunger Dominus. At the beginning, it's got reach, and at the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until the end of turn. If you pay a couple of mana or some life, sacrifice 2 other creatures, put an indestructible counter on Zopandrel. Great card. Another big green stompy creature, one of the best creatures ever in green. Old Gnawbone from Adventures in Forgotten Realms. Flying, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. Vorinclex, the Voice of Hunger. Trample. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type of land that land produced. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. And whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, that land doesn't untap during its controller's deck's untap phase. A creature that doesn't start off big and stompy, but gets big and stompy, and is a problem for a lot of people. You have to remove this the minute it comes on the battlefield. Primordial Hydra. It enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of 1/1 counters on the Primordial Hydra. It has trample as long as it has 10 or more 1/1 counters on it. We have Kodama of the East Tree. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. Great card. Now, one of the highlights of this deck, and it is a super rare card. I'm looking up the value of it right now. It's $187.42. But if you want to make a Selvala Brostorm deck go, you absolutely need this card, the Phyrexian Dreadnought. Now, at first glance, it might not be that great of a card. It's a 12/12. It's only a casting cost of 1, which is major for this deck. But it's got trample. And when Phyrexian Dreadnought comes into play, sacrifice any number of creatures with total power of 12 or more, or bury Phyrexian Dreadnought. So people are like, how does that work? Because I've got to sacrifice a bunch of stuff to make use of this. Not in a Selvala deck. So just look at this. You have Selvala on the board, and you can add X mana in any combination of colors where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. You can bring Selvala super early out in this deck, and then if you can get your hands on the Phyrexian Dreadnought, you can immediately, when Phyrexian Dreadnought comes out, now you may sacrifice Phyrexian Dreadnought, not sacrifice it, you may bury it, but before you bury it, you're going to get to tap, and you're going to add 12 mana to your mana pool, and then you can go back and you can cast one of these massive creatures. So for example, Ghalta Primeval Hunger. So what a great way to cheat out a massive stompy creature earlier. That's why Phyrexian Dreadnought is massive in this deck. So get yourself, I know it's an expensive purchase, get yourself a Phyrexian Dreadnought. This is the ultimate place for that card. In the same vein, the Mirror Superior. Spend only mana produced by creatures to cast Mirror Superior. It's a 5/6, but it only costs a 2 to bring out. So a great way to trigger Selvala with the card draw with the mana production. We have another illegal card, a card that I was really hoping was going to be unbanned. It should have been unbanned. The Primeval Titan, prime time, free prime time, trample. Whenever Primeval Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, you may search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tap, and shuffle your library. Another one of those big Phyrexian cards. Phyrexian Soulgorger. It's an 8/8, but again, it only costs 3 to bring out. So you're just going to be triggering Selvala early to bring out big stompy creatures and then just create a ton of mana and crush the board. Cumulative upkeep, sacrifice a creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, put an age counter on this permanent and sacrifice it unless you pay its upkeep cost for each age counter on it. It's a great card, great way to trigger Selvala early. And one more thing, when we talk about triggering early, this deck, if you get the right opening hand, this deck can go off turn 2, turn 3 right away. This is arguably my only true CEDH worthy deck, or something that's approaching CEDH worthy. If I was really going to make it CEDH worthy, and spoiler alert, I've got no Gaia's Cradle in here, I've got no Mox Diamond, but if I had a Mox Diamond in here, if I had a Lion's Eye Diamond, if I had a Gaia's Cradle, it would be CEDH worthy. If I was going to make any changes to make this super competitive, I would take out the ban cards, because obviously you can't play those in CEDH, and those are the cards that I would enter. So just want to put that out there. Fanatic of Ronus. You can add a mana. Ferocious. You can add 4 mana. Activate only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, which is going to be the case in this deck. And then it's got Eternalize on it. You can pay the Eternalize cost to exile this card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie stake druid with no mana cost. Eternalize only as a sorcery, so a great mana ramp card here. Another banned card, another card that needs to be freed. I don't think this is any worse than the Promised Land, to be honest with you. I think actually controlling another person on the turn is worse than taking an extra turn, because you can completely tank that person. But Emrakul, the Aeons Torn, this spell can't be countered. When you cast a spell, take an extra turn after this one. Flying protection from spells that are 1 or more colors, Annihilator 6. And when it is put into the graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles their graveyard into the library. All right. Another big, nasty Brostorm stompy type creature. Ulamog, the Infinite Gear. When you cast Ulamog, destroy target permanent. Indestructible. Annihilator 4. Again, if it's put into the graveyard, you shuffle your graveyard into your library. Of course, we're going to have another Titan, Kozilek, the Butcher of Truth. When you cast the spell, draw 4 cards, Annihilator 4, and again, that graveyard library ability. Another card that you need in the Selvala deck, highlight the usefulness of Selvala, the Lupine Prototype. It only costs 2. It can't attack or block unless a player has no card in his hand. But that's not why you're using this card. You're using it to ramp mana early with Selvala. So if you're going to build a Selvala deck, get yourself a Lupine Prototype. Regal Force. When Regal Force enters the battlefield, draw a card for each green creature you control. Awesome card for card draw in a commander deck. Wirewood Symbiote. Return an elf you control to its owner's hand. Untap target creature. Another great untapper, the Wirewood Symbiote. When you build a Selvala deck, you need lots of untappers. Scrib Ranger. Flash. Flying protection from blue. Return a forest you control to its owner's hand and untap target creature. You see what's happening here, don't you? We're just going to make all the mana you can imagine with this. Yasan, Wanderer Bard, in a beautiful version of this card. Put a verse counter on Yasan, the Wanderer Bard. Search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to the number of verse counters on Yasan. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So a great tutor type card. So I love this card in this deck. The Temur Sabertooth, another card you want in a Selvala deck. You're going to pay 2 mana, one of them being green. You may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible till the end of turn. The Allosaurus Shepherd. We have all those elves. It's a Brostorm deck. What's more Brostorm than a pack of wild dinosaurs? All right, so the Allosaurus Shepherd. This spell can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. And then you pay 6 mana, 2 of them being green. Until end of turn, each elf creature you control has base power, toughness is 5/5, and is a dinosaur. Fierce Empath. When Fierce Empath enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value 6 or greater, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So another tutor-type card to get those big, stompy green creatures. Jaraga Tree Speaker. All right, it's got that level up ability. So here we go. We're going to actually put this to the bottom so it's just a little more clear. Level up, so you're going to pay 2 mana, one of them being green. Put a level counter on this. Level up only as sorcery. From level 1 to 4, you can add 2 to your mana pool. For level 5 plus, elves you control, add 2 mana to your mana pool. And then it becomes a 1/2 and a 1/4. So a great card here. Jaraga Tree Speaker. I love mana ramp type cards. It's a great elf card to have. You don't see that card a lot, but I absolutely love it. Here we go. Big time mana ramp card and creature bump for all the elves. The Elvish Arch Druid. Elvish Champion. Elves get +1/+1 and have Forest Walk. I included those 2 cards specifically because we do have a ton of elves in here, so it's kind of a sub-elf feature. The Llanowar Elves, one of the greatest mana ramp cards of all time. The Priest of Titania, add a green mana for each elf on the battlefield. Massive. In the Elvish Mystic, so we have all the Elvish land ramp cards, so a massive amount of mana ramp in this deck. And like I said, this deck goes off with Selvala in a hurry. If you have Selvala, you have an Elvish Mystic, you have a Phyrexian Dreadnought in your hand to open the game, you are probably not losing. So another feature of this deck is we have a lot of instants and sorceries that act as tutors to get those big green creatures. So let's look at some of those right now. The Summoner's Pact. Search your library for a green creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. At the beginning of your upkeep, pay 4 or you lose the game. You're probably not going to lose the game. In this deck, you're going to be able to create all the mana, so I love this card in there. Tooth and Nail. Choose one. Search your library for up to 2 target creature cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your library, or put up to 2 target creature cards from your hand into play, and you pay the entwine cost. You can choose both. So another great tutor card, big casting cost, but in this deck, this is not going to be a problem. Think about, again, you have Selvala, you have the Phyrexian Dreadnought, you can bring this out right away. Green Sun's Zenith, another great tutor in Magic the Gathering and works really, really well in a Selvala deck. The Court of Calling, another great tutor. We have all the green tutors in this deck. And in Selvala, yes, it's got a bigger casting cost, but this is going to go off. The ultimate green tutor, one of the greatest green tutor of all time, Worldly Tutor. Search your library for a creature card, reveal that card to players, shuffle your library, and put the revealed card back on top of it. We have the Eldritch Evolution as an additional cost to cast. Eldritch Evolution, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2. Plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. Exile Eldritch Evolution. We have Rishkar's Expertise, not a tutor, but a great card. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. You may cast a spell with mana value 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Last March of the Ents. Can't be countered. Draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Game ender. Please. Flare of Cultivation. You may sacrifice a non-token green creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards. Put one onto the battlefield, tap the other into your hand. Return of the Wild Speaker. Choose one. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Massive in this deck. And non-human creatures you control get a +3/+3 until the end of turn. And then Smuggler's Surprise. All right? It's got Spree. And I'm actually going to take this to read it because the spoil version is a little hard to read. And then I'll show you the card. Spree. Choose one or more additional costs. The +2 ability for this. Not the +2 ability. I guess you play an extra 2 mana. Mill 4 cards. You may put up to 2 creature and or land cards from among the milled cards onto your battlefield. If you play 4 plus a green mana, you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield, and you pay an extra 1. Creatures you control power 4 or greater. There's a lot of those in this deck. A hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. So how this is going to work, you pay the 1 green, and then you can pay these spree costs to enact all these abilities. Those are my instants and my sorceries. And again, really, really heavy on tutors. Let's look at some enchantments. Budget Gaia's Cradle, Growing Rights of Itmalok. When it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform it. And what does it turn into? Here's why I say it's a Budget Gaia's Cradle. Add a green mana or add a green mana for each creature you control. All right. We have the Greater Good. Card draw. Sacrifice a creature. Draw cards equal to that sacrificed creature's power. Then discard 3 cards. Absolutely massive in this deck. We have the Birthing Ritual. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature, look at the top 7 cards of your library. Then you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from among those cards onto the battlefield, where X is 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. The Carpet of Flowers. During your main phase, you may add up to X mana of 1 color to your mana pool, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. Listen, a lot of people are playing islands, so the Carpet of Flowers is a no-brainer in this deck. And if you're playing a 4-person game of Commander, someone at a table's got islands. So this is a great card. The meanest card in Magic the Gathering history, not really, but it's one of them. You want to wreck somebody's day, slap this on their commander. Enchant creature. When Kenra's transformation enters the battlefield, draw a card. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. So someone brings out Edgar Markov, say goodbye, game over. And I promise you, no one's going to remove that from that person's commander. Like, someone at the game is not going to help them out. So they are done. Artifacts. Great mana ramp card, the greatest one of all time, Soul Ring. You want to talk about the ban list? Let's talk about it again, because this is the thing that I am on. This is a better card than Mana Crypt. It is a better card than Jeweled Lotus. If you're not going to ban this, you have to unban those. What am I trying to say? If this is legal, Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus have to be legal. That's just a fact, all right? We have the Sensei's Divining Top. Great for card draw, great for card filtering, if you will. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order, and you pay 1, and you can do that. You can tap it, draw a card, then put Sensei's Divining Top back on top of his owner's library. The Umbral Mantle. Equipped creature has pay 3. This creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. And then, look at this, the untap symbol. So the equipped creature has pay 3, and you untap it. And this creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. So you're just going to put the Umbral Mantle on Selvala, and you are going to go absolutely bananas with this card, all right? So love the Umbral Mantle in this deck. Use it with Selvala to go just crazy infinite. Staff of Domination, speaking of going infinite, you can use this all kinds of ways with Selvala, with Marwyn, right? But untap Staff of Domination, you gain 1 life. You can untap target creature, tap target creature, or draw a card, and you pay a bunch of mana for each of those abilities. Look at this, the Monster Manual. Love this card from Baldur's Gate. You pay 2 mana, one of them being green, 1 colorless. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. A great way to cheat out big stompy, creature. Those are my artifacts. What a great deck. Now, we got to talk about lands, and we're going to talk about the boring ones first, although I do have some cool lands in here, like that, but I have a bunch of forests in here. All right. Actually, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 basic lands. All right, so a bunch of forests. And now we have some non-basics. We have the Shire, right? Everyone knows what that does. The Path of Ancestry, all right? Path of Ancestry enters the battlefield tap. Add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shows a creature type in your commander, scry 1, and it is an elf deck, so we put that in. The Rogue's Passage. Let's make some of these big, nasty creatures unblockable. And then this you need to purchase, all right? The Yavimaya Hollow. Add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. And then you pay a green, you can regenerate target creatures. So there we go. What an incredible deck. Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. This is one of my longer episodes, but I absolutely love Brostorm stuff. And like I said, I am hopped up as a pre-workout. Let's take a sip, because like I said, I'm going to go in the Brostorm frame of mind and smash all the weights. But get yourself a Selvala, get yourself a Phyrexian Dreadnought. A couple of metadata pieces on this deck. It's around $822. A lot of values tied up in that Phyrexian Dreadnought, though. It is a $187 card, so just be aware of that. Last March of the Ants is 35. It is technically a bracket 3 deck, although I do have 3 banned cards: Rofellos, Primeval Titan, and we've got Emrakul, the Aeons Torn. By the way, if you want a deck list for this, you're going to go want to build a Brostorm deck, go to my mocks field. There will be a link in the show notes. It's technically a bracket 3. Like I said, though, this could be one of my CEDH worthy decks. If I could make any changes, I would take out the 3 banned cards. If I was doing this for CEDH, I'd put in a Guy's Cradle, I'd put in a Mox Diamond, and then I'd put in another card, maybe a Grim Monolith, maybe a Lion's Eye Diamond or something like that. It has 2 game changers. We talked about tutors. Technically, this has 11 tutor cards. That's absolutely mind-blowing. I didn't realize there was 11 green cards that could act as tutors, but it's got 11 tutor-type cards. Eldritch Evolution, Green Sun Zenith, Worldly Tutor, Court of Calling, Tooth and Nail, Summoner's Pact, Fauna Shaman, Invasion of Ikoria, Fierce Empath, Greek, Yisan the Wanderer Bard. So it's just a massive, massive deck. The mana value is $239. Now, if you've heard me talk before, and this is the final thing I'll say in this video, Bobby, you said you want to build decks that are under 200 for mana value to be competitive and go fast. Yes, that's true, unless it's a gimmicky type deck, and this is a gimmicky type deck, like with Selvalla's ability and the things you could do with the Phyrexian Dreadnought or that the Snow Phyrexian. I can't remember the name of it right now. I always got to do this and look this up, all right? But let's get it out so we can see, yes, the Phyrexian Soul Gorger. You're going to be able to cheat out a lot of creatures, so you don't have to worry about the total mana value in this deck right now, especially with the tutors, the card draw, the mana ramping, all that stuff. Final note for Selvala. If you have any suggestions, because there's probably some holes here that I got to fill, right? I've got a lot of untappers, I got a lot of card draw, I got a lot of infinite combos, I got a lot of big stompy creatures. But if there are any creatures that I have missed, please put them in the comments below. I am all about the Brostorming. I am all about this deck. It's one of my favorite decks ever. And so, yeah, put this in the comments below. And it also helps feed my channel, right? My goal is to build 100 of the best commander decks the world has ever seen. These 57 decks, they all exist in real time. They exist in my home, right? You can go grab my deck and you can play with it. So feeding the channel helps me. That's how you can support me in my quest for 100 decks. So thank you. I'm obviously excited, obviously passionate about Magic. Been playing for 31 years. Thank you for coming to another episode of Muscles and Magic the Gathering. And with that in mind, I'm going to go do some Brostorming of my own.